Thank you all for joining us. I want to go ahead and introduce Dr. John Hayes. He's a program director for the MCW Previa Green Bay Family Medicine Residency and an associate professor at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Nationally, Dr. Hayes serves on the STFM National Artificial Intelligence Task Force, working to integrate AI into medical education and clinical workflows to enhance physician efficiency and patient care. Thank you for joining us. So if you want to go ahead and start and share your slides.
Hi, everybody. I am what she said she is. I'm John Hayes. I am the program director of the Green Bay Family Medicine Residency. I see that this is sort of an intimate group of people. So, what I'm going to do is I will have the chat open during this talk. And also I have your pictures up on one of my screens. So like if you want me to stop at any point when I'm sharing what I have to share, I'd be happy to stop and go into more detail. So what we're going to cover is really an overview about how you can integrate artificial intelligence tools into your clinical lives and how that can make your clinical lives essentially better. What I like to say is in this talk, all of the slides that you see were generated with the assistance of artificial intelligence. I don't give a presentation anymore without having AI check it and critique it and help me make it better. So 100% of the images that you see are AI generated and a lot of the content was AI augmented. So I am a program director in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and really try and encourage my residents and faculty as much as possible to embrace artificial intelligence. All right, so let me start with some questions. As an academic family doc, I have had AI write my conference abstracts. It's written, help me write academic publications. It helped me get a $250,000 grant from the Substance Use and Mental Health Services Administration to help my addiction clinic. It writes my session objectives and all my talks. It does journal clubs for me. It does chart audits for my residents. It rates my residents' milestones. It helps my residents make their posters. And again, it really helps me with all of my talks. So the question I have for you is like, is any of that stuff cheating? I am objectively doing less work because AI is helping me. AI has made me a lot more efficient in many of the tasks that I complete. And at least my hypothesis is I don't think so. I think this is just called writing now, that AI has allowed me to be a better partner, father, physician, program director because all the million tasks that we have to complete in our physician, our jobs, it has helped me become a lot more efficient and maybe a little bit more eloquent in what I'm doing. So I could give a whole talk about like how AI works. And the answer is it's transformers and complex math. It is not actually thinking in the way that we think human brains think. But what it really is at the end of the day, it's a little bit more complicated than this, but it's just word association. So for every sentence, it knows the probability that is follows this and another follows this and sentence. It's done word punctuation association, but it's done this with literally the majority of human knowledge and created content. So when you feed in this many associations, and also a few other tricks of like reward and neural networks, you can come up with really robust answers that really are close to mimicking what human thought is. So the scary thing to think about is AI has gobbled up all of the internet, all books ever published, every YouTube video that's ever been recorded, every image on the internet, all software code, every podcast, all of that data feeds it, um, and it learns from it, and it's consumed sort of the peak amount of data it can at this point. So now what AI is doing is it's writing for itself and learning from AI generated content. So there's so many associations there that it makes it quite powerful. But also, we know that the stuff on YouTube is not always real life, right? That there are horrible books written. There are images that we don't necessarily want. So the training data that AI is fed can be inherently flawed. And even when you're thinking about, okay, well, let's not use an AI that's trained on Reddit. Let's not use Grok. Um, but even then, you're still dealing with uh, flawed scientific articles, right? Papers that are bad. We think about doing a journal club, and you often find errors in literature. Like that stuff can get fed to AI. We're in this really exciting time. Traditionally, we talked about you learn this in college, I guarantee it. Bloom's taxonomy, where we create, evaluate, and analyze things, and those are the highest level cognitive tasks that we have. Well, AI has really flipped that. That now we're remembering, understanding, and applying. Those are our highest order tasks. Because AI can create literally anything. It can evaluate things quite well and can analyze things quite well. So with AI at this point, the limit is not the technology, it's your imagination and what you can apply it towards. People, this is a scary stat. Open evidence, ChatGPT, and different versions has gotten 100% on the USMLE licensing exams and on the American Board of Family Medicine licensing exams. So it's doing really well on these standardized multiple choice tests. However, I don't think we're obsolete just yet, because if you really, yes, it does well on these standardized tests, and that's a headline grabbing article. But another article that just got published in 2025 tested open evidence against something called the MedExpert QA dataset, where they took really complex medical cases and they compared the AI output to what expert physicians in their fields on these cases did for a case. What they found is that even in deep consult mode, the one that takes like 15 minutes to come up with an answer, AI only had a 41% diagnostic and therapeutic accuracy. And um, and in the standard query mode, open evidence was around 34%. So, but the problem is every time AI gives you an answer, it's highly fluent. It looks really realistic. It really looks like that guy's wrestling a robot there, but he's not. They're fake. That's a fake image. And some of the stuff that AI is generating is there to mislead you and can cause harm. So when you're thinking about incorporating AI into your life, here's sort of the code of conduct, the things that you should think about. Protect patient privacy first. Use AI tools that protect your personal health information. You should really focus on accuracy over convenience. So AI generated information has to come from trusted sources, which is why using the open large language models is probably a bad idea. However, those open models also do quite well on the medical data sets. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. You should do exactly what I did at the beginning of this talk. If you're using AI to help you in some form of work function, you should disclose that you're using AI and you should not be ashamed that you're doing it, right? When AI is your secret friend that's doing work for you and you're not telling anyone, that is problematic. But if you're just transparently using these tools, then no, that is not a problem. I've seen this kind of disturbing, in my opinion, um, proliferation of people writing these little blurbs at the end of their papers or in their clinical notes that AI is generating and saying, AI helped generate this work, so I'm not responsible for any factual errors. That's completely wrong. You are 100% responsible for everything that you put your name on that AI helps you write. So disclaimers don't count. Smarter people than me, all of the leaders of the family medicine journals have kind of banded together and came up with guiding principles for using AI in research and publishing. And again, what they say is disclose the use, make sure the work is accurate. They're particularly concerned about faking citations, which these LLMs do quite well. And they really emphasize that you need to check your work. So this kind of gets into residency application. Right now, and as a residency, my process is I have 3 different docs to review applications. Well, the problem there is that all 3 of these people that you see on the screen here might have different opinions. They might have different thoughts about, some people might think that research is more important than grit. That some people might be discriminating against international medical graduates, and some might be really pro international medical graduates. And even when you have a rubric as a residency, bias enters into the conversation. So one of the things I'd like you to think about is, could we use AI prompts if it's a single prompt applied to every single person evenly? Does that actually help improve equity? I know a lot of people are worried about AI worsening equity because it can call forward racist things, and that is well documented. That definitely happens. But if used properly, it can probably help improve fairness in many ways. The AAMC does endorse the use of AI in endorses the use of AI tools in residency selection. So this is like what we're doing now. But they also give some guidelines, right? But basically, you should understand the model you're using and the risks and benefits of it. And no one is saying that we're giving all of residency selection to the robots, right? Human judgment is really important, but I think in the future, work is human in the loop work, where AI does a lot of the work for us, and we are there for critical analysis and checking and improving. Um, ERAS tells medical students this. The use of AI tools is acceptable for brainstorming, proofreading, or editing a personal statement, but the final submission should represent your work. Well, what does that mean? That's complicated, right? Is it okay to say revise this paragraph to improve clarity? Probably. Is it okay to say write me a personal statement about a clinical encounter with a patient with heart failure that taught me a lesson about compassion? That's a little bit more worrisome. Is that a person with heart failure real, or are you making that all up? Did you really learn that lesson about compassion? I'm not totally sure. But this is the Wild West we're kind of getting into, where AI is doing a lot of the work that we're doing. This is a thing. Well, residencies will say, or schools, a lot of people are saying, I'm going to use an AI checker, and I'm going to make sure that I know whether AI is doing the work. AI checkers don't work. There's just full stop. There's no reason why you should ever use them. Their accuracy is around between 33 and 70%. Even and as the AI models evolve, their writing gets more fluent. The AI checkers often punish non-native English speakers and people that are maybe a little bit worse at writing. So AI checkers don't work. You hear this from program directors. It's interesting. I've given this talk a few times, and they say, I can spot AI generated personal statements, and I'm not going to accept those applicants. Well, even in 2023, when this study that surveyed anesthesia program directors, it found that 90% actually liked a personal statement that was completely generated by AI, and 74% rated it good or excellent. So you can't spot these things, and if you think you're going to, then you're probably in trouble. So one thing I want to focus on is there's a ton of tasks. There's a ton of things that AI can do for you. But what people tend to think about is they think about one model, think about Claude, or they think about chat, and that is what does it for them. But actually, this long list of tasks that physicians do on a regular basis on the left side of the screen, each of those tasks has a correct model, and very few of them are just like use open evidence for everything. So this is what I like to show people, that Notebook LM, I'm going to demonstrate it in a little bit, is an incredibly powerful tool that can summarize any article, turn it into a podcast or a video. It can create amazing content for you. Medscape AI is trained on all of the drug dosing information. It's actually way better than open evidence for like coming up with drug dosing information. And it also can scribe for you for free. And it's HIPAA compliant. Open evidence does a really good job at differentials and helping come up with quick answers. Consensus does a really good job helping provide more nuanced answers to complex questions. Perplexity is really good at patient handouts. Chat and Gemini and Claude are really good at conversational, like practicing conversations. Doximity GPT can deal with protected health information, and use PHI safely to help with an encounter. Canva or Gamma are do really good jobs of writing slide decks. So up to date is not totally obsolete just yet. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But this slide is important. There is a right tool for every use case, I will say, and a right prompt. So we're faced with this issue. How should residents learn in 2026? When I was a resident 10 years ago, I graduated from residency 10 years ago, so 10 to 13 years ago. The attendings would shake their head at me because they couldn't believe that I'd never cracked Harrison's and I wasn't reading books all the time. That I was using online resources. I was using UpToDate for everything, PubMed. Now we have a whole new generation of residents that are using AI to answer almost every clinical question. They're using open evidence for everything. And how does that change medicine? So what I want to kind of talk about is, again, the right tool for the right task. So open evidence, for example, generates very fast answers to any question. Should you use it? Well, it really depends on whether you want the exact answer to your question, or whether you need a more nuanced answer and you need some background knowledge. Example, back in the day when books existed, when people were using reference books, or when they were using an updated article, you would have to read through an entire up-to-date article to figure out what antibiotic you should prescribe for a urinary tract infection. Well, now you can just type that in open evidence, get an answer. When I used to have to skim the article to kind of come up with the answer, or skim the book chapter, I was learning a whole bunch of other collateral information that now is lost because I just get the answer of my specific question. So think about using other things. One, Medscape does a better job. It's powered on the Hippocrates database, so it does a really better job at drug information. And if you need background knowledge, which residents often do need and physicians often need, still use UpToDate to give you that background knowledge, or take a guideline article that you really like, upload it to Notebook LM, and do background readings with it. Consensus is also a really powerful tool that I'm going to demonstrate in just a little bit if you haven't heard of it. So Consensus is really cool. It's an LLM that basically runs a meta-analysis on any research question at any time. So let me show you it in action. Does the clinical use of ambient scribes in medical training lead to a loss of clinical reasoning skills in physicians? Nope, no evidence that says it does. But actually, it's pretty strong that scribing experience does not reduce clinical skills, and that ambient scribes. It's another claim is that ambient scribes can reduce the documentation burden without harming reasoning. Well, that's moderate. There are maybe some evidence out there. Maybe the studies are poor. It gives me like kind of a heat map on the strength of that recommendation. The difference between this and what open evidence gives you is open evidence gives you an answer with no nuance in reasoning. Another example, should ACE inhibitors be used to treat hypertension in African American patients? Well, this is controversial. The JNC 7/8 guideline would say that you should not prescribe ACEs or ARBs for African American patients. There are many physicians that point to that data, that being based on racist, poorly designed studies, and that these drugs are perfectly reasonable, and actually that it causes harm in not using these drugs. But open evidence just says, yeah, don't use ACE inhibitors. But if you plug that same question into consensus, you get more nuance, right? You get, I don't know, some yes, some possibly, some no. You can kind of dig into why is it uncertain. And what it tells you is that combination therapy eliminates any racial differences, that they're clearly beneficial for specific comorbidities, that people on these drugs have significantly lower coronary artery disease mortality. So actually you learn, oh, it's not actually as contraindicated as I thought. So using a different model gives you a slightly different answer and a little bit more nuance. Okay. Another thing to think about is HIPAA and FERPA. So if there's one thing you want to take away from this message is that you cannot and should not use ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini with HIPAA protected data. You can't upload a whole patient note into ChatGPT and do something with it. That is a violation of HIPAA. But there are models that do allow you to use AI. Doximity GPT is, I think, the best. I think they just renamed themselves to Doximity Ask, but that's a great example. Open Evidence is HIPAA compliant. Medscape is HIPAA compliant. And whether that is truly HIPAA compliant or not is interesting. It's really nuanced. Technically, for Doximity GPT or Open Evidence to be HIPAA compliant, a business authorization agreement, a legal agreement, has to be in place for it really to truly be HIPAA compliant. When a physician signs up for Doximity GPT, they do actually do an individual BAA, and that can count towards HIPAA compliance, but your individual programs or organizations, tech people may or may not agree with that statement, right? Does the individual BAA, is that enough, or do we need an institutional one? So what many institutions are saying is like, don't use these models because they're not really HIPAA compliant and it's against the rules. But it's actually kind of a gray area because it's not really against the rules because there are BAAs in place. It's just whether they choose to accept them or not. Like many things in medicine is gray. What about resident evaluation data? So what I do in my residency program is I upload every single evaluation from my residents. I upload them to Gemini in a model that Google says they're not going to share any of the information from. They say they don't train off the gems, the custom models. So I've toggled the data sharing off, and I use Gemini to help me assess my residents' milestones for the curriculum competency committee. Well, some would say that as a violation of FERPA, the Federal Education Portability Act, like that protects educational data. But again, I don't think so because there's a BAA and they're not sharing data. So it really depends. We're in this Wild West right now. I want to show you this tool called Notebook LM if you haven't used it before. It's incredible. So what Notebook LM allows you to do is upload literally any article. Here's an article from the AAFP Journal on jaundice, and it will instantly summarize that article. You can upload up to 300 sources simultaneously. Um, and then what's really cool is that once you have these articles up there, you can actually ask the articles questions. Instead of like skimming an article, you can type in does the article talk about diagnostic testing? Furthermore, it will actually cite parts of the article um, and give you pretty fluent answers. It's not going to hallucinate. Another really cool thing is multimodal.
Ever catch yourself in the mirror and something seems a bit off? Maybe your skin looks just a tad yellow, or the whites of your eyes aren't quite as bright as usual.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a bit of a wake-up call. It makes you wonder what's going on, right?
Totally. It's that kind of thing where you're like, wait, is this something I should be worried about? And we're talking about jaundice, right?
Exactly. But here's the thing about jaundice. It's not really a disease in itself.
Yeah.
It's more like, think of it as a signal.
Oh, okay. Like a warning light on your car's dashboard.
Exactly.
So literally, I just uploaded an article and created a podcast using this free tool.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to be medical detectives. Seriously, we're on the hunt for this really obvious clue. A sign that your body is screaming that something important is going on just beneath the surface. We're about to unravel the whole mystery of jaundice. So, let's just get right to it. Why do people sometimes turn yellow? I mean, it's a pretty striking thing to see, right? Someone's skin or the whites of their eyes, they just have this yellow tint. And you gotta know, this is way more than just some weird cosmetic thing. It's a signal. It's a physical clue that kicks off a pretty serious medical investigation. Okay.
So again, what I did there is uploaded that article, clicked a button, and instead of having to read that whole article, it created an AI generated video explanation that's sourced, that's based on what I uploaded it. So, residents get told all the time to read more, that you need to do more reading. And you guys work close to 80 hours a week, almost every week. You're tired. You're not going to be able to maintain consciousness. What I like to tell people now is if a new guideline comes out, put it in a Notebook LM, ask it some questions, create a video explainer. It can also do flashcards. It can do PowerPoint presentations. It can do multiple choice questions. So it really allows for that multimodal learning. So check out this thing I made. If you point your phone at the dinosaur here in the bottom left, you'll have a pretty elaborate notebook that I created that's free to share on the treatment of stimulant use disorder, right? It has, again, Notebook is a completely free service if you sign up for Google. And allows you to really synthesize this data in exciting ways. Another cool thing is, we don't have AI scribes. My health system is too poor, or it's not, and we don't have a scribe yet, and I'm really sad. Well, you totally do have a scribe. There are multiple models out there. I think I can think of at least 4 that are free to use, that are HIPAA compliant, that can scribe for you. Now, your program may or may not may have thoughts about you using these tools. So don't go tell them that Dr. Hayes said that this is totally fine to do. But 3 great examples. Doximity GPT has a scribe that can listen to your clinical encounter and write a clinical note. Medscape has a free HIPAA compliance scribe, and there's another service that we used in my residency called Heidi that was free and HIPAA compliant that was quite popular with the residents. So these things exist. All right, other cool things, chatbots. So how to make using the base models like Chat and Gemini, can you create chatbots that can teach you things? Um, a really fun one I like is act as a harsh, unforgiving surgeon quizzing me, a medical student, during a laparoscopic cholecystectomy. All right, let's see. Don't accept incorrect answers. All right, so I just created the meanest ever surgeon. All right, student, get over here. Put those eyes on the monitor. Don't touch anything. Don't breathe on my sterile field. And this fake surgeon robot is now peppering the resident with questions, right? And it's mean. If they get it wrong, they say, um, they say, spit it out. Stop wasting my time and give me the correct answer. Um, this is so much better than reading an article on the anatomy of a cholecystectomy, which you're probably not going to be able to maintain consciousness through, right? Um, Things like this can be really powerful. Another example, let's say you're about to go tell someone they have breast cancer for the first time. You've never had an end of life conversation, you want some feedback on it. Well, you can put a prompt into AI like, I'm about to do this and help me prepare. And you can actually do it with using either Gemini or ChatGPT. You can do it with audio and it can be really realistic. It can sound like a real person. So I programmed something obviously terrible just to kind of be funny, but um, do you have results from my biopsy? And the doctor says, you're gonna die, you have cancer. And look what the AI does. Like this really realistic scene that I can almost like see in my head that the patient becomes shocked. The husband gets mad. What the hell did you just say? The patient is in denial. This has to be a mistake. Like again, this can be a really realistic thing that can help teach you. Um, Another thing I like to use ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude for is deep research functions. I think you can generate a PhD level article on literally any topic, literally anything. And I wouldn't recommend using ChatGPT or Gemini base model like to create things, but if you click that deep research button, what it does is that means that you actually are going to cite real articles and you can go click on those articles and come up with answers. So coming up, this is how I do background research in literally any talk or presentation I give now. I use AI, GPT and Gemini to help me write learning objectives, to help me write abstracts, to help me make sure my presentations are accurate. I did this for my residents, which was kind of fun. I wanted to increase the amount of poster presentations we had at one of our regional conferences. So I used this prompt I uploaded the um, the prompt and the peer review criteria that they're using to evaluate resident posters. And then I gave it these instructions. Start with a friendly greeting, ask which of the poster type that you're going to be writing, provide the template, ask for information to populate that template, and then analyze it and improve it, right? So using this model, many of my residents submitted really great looking posters, and it didn't require the normal back and forth that it often takes for me to get things done. Journal club. Should we do journal clubs anymore? It might be a waste of time now because AI can do a journal club often better than you can. Take a journal club prompt, um, use this prompt to analyze any article ever, and it can help you pick out really quickly strengths and weaknesses. Now, I think it's important for humans to do a journal club at least once or twice in their life to kind of figure out the nuance and what it's like to actually pick apart an article. But we're busy people. We might not have the time to do this work, so the AI can really help us do it better. Um, Analyzing rotation evaluations. I'll say as a program director, I used to be a curriculum director for a medical school. When I get student evaluations, the negative stuff is always louder than the positive stuff. I can get 250 positive evaluations and one negative one that really, really sits with me. So using AI to kind of help analyze evaluations and come up with conclusions can be really helpful and eliminate that bias that I know that I have. I have a resident that recently graduated from my residency program who used this prompt to negotiate a $60,000 raise for his first job. So analyze this contract, find the key provisions, find the atypical stuff, give me some guidance on what to do. He just followed exactly what the AI robot did. I don't know why anyone would pay a lawyer to review a contract these days, because the AI can do that really well. Lawyers are a bit in trouble, in my opinion. What about patient handouts? The stuff that's in Epic is garbage. It's not nuanced enough for most of our patients, right? Let's say you had a Latinx patient and you help me create a handout for a DASH diet for someone who prefers traditional Mexican food. Include 5 recipes, include a shopping list, make sure all the ingredients are inexpensive, right? There's nothing like this on Epic, I guarantee it. But Perplexity, which is public facing and is specifically kind of written to write things at like a 6th grade reading level, can create these really robust handouts and cites things so that you can kind of go through it really quickly to make sure it's just not nonsense. Content experts. So take anything you want. As a program director, I'm citing the ACGME regs constantly. So I uploaded all the ACGME regs to Notebook LM, and I can just ask it questions instead of me having to read through to see, oh, how many pediatric encounters in the ER do my residents need? And having to skim a 200-page document to figure out that bit of information. I just ask Notebook, and it cites the exact article right away. Letter of recommendation. How I write my letters of rec right now for medical students and residents is typically I'm driving home and I open up ChatGPT, and I stream of consciousness share some things about that resident, and then often I'll include a CV, and then I press a button and it's still it's trained on like my writing style, and it incorporates the thoughts that I gave it, but it produces a letter of recommendation that is really highly reliable, and way better than it would have taken. It used to take me a whole day to do like the 20 letters of rec I do a year right before ERAS gets uploaded, and now that happens in seconds. Again, I talked about this before, but I'm using Gemini to rate my residents' performance based on these milestones, So I use this prompt I upload a PDF of all of their evaluations for the last 6 months, and it does a really good job. And what's interesting is we have our faculty members do the milestone evaluations for the Curriculum Competency Committee. And faculty have biases, right? Like some residents we like, some of them we don't. Sometimes we're tired, sometimes we're distracted. Using AI as a first pass and then have faculty go through a second time really makes things a lot more efficient, and helps us make sure that there's less bias. Gamma. I makes amazing PowerPoint presentations. I use this on a regular basis to take a boring slide and make it pretty. If you have white text on a black text on a white screen and you're just presenting basic slides, you're doing it wrong. That makes no sense. Take your boring presentation, upload it to Gamma, and let it make it pretty. And that is good because prettier presentations stick more with the learner. There's whole courses now taught on prompt engineering, so I'm not going to get into it too much, but basically how you fine-tune the AI matters, although it's mattering less and less. So one takeaway message I like to give people is that you should really have AI help you write your prompts for whatever you're trying to do. So AI, I want to improve this PowerPoint presentation. Help me create a prompt to analyze and improve a PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Well, AI is going to give you that prompt, then you upload that prompt to Gamma and then use that prompt to improve your presentation, right? Instead of trying to come up with a good prompt on your own. And then you can edit the AI generated prompt and it really helps. I get this talk, people say this all the time. I use AI once and the output sucked, so I'm just never going to use it again. And what I like to say is garbage in, garbage out, right? Like if you ask AI to make your peanut butter sandwich, it's going to make you the most average, boring peanut butter and jelly sandwich ever, right? This is a boring recipe. This is white bread, not particularly appetizing. What if I change my prompt a little bit? You're a contestant at Top Chef Wisconsin. Your job is to cook for the Packers, and you want to make the best ever peanut butter and jelly sandwich and make every component from scratch in the style of Robbie Flay. All of a sudden, it makes the most amazing PB&J I've ever seen before. I want a PB&J with bacon right now, right? And it gives me a really good recipe, right? So what the prompt that you give it really matters. And I really like, for me personally, the craft prompting mnemonic kind of sticks in my head. So you want to give it context. Context is, I'm a resident in North America or New Mexico, or I'm a faculty in a family medicine residency program. I'm writing this prompt. The role of this prompt is evaluating clinical reasoning. The action is I want this, instead of just, you want to say how you want it to evaluate, right? So evaluate them as satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or excellent. How do you want it to do that? If you don't give it information, it's going to do it somewhat randomly. But you could give it a form, or you could give it a rubric, or you can give it 10 examples of excellent, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and then target. Provide really robust feedback for a learner to improve. The target is not to punish people. It's to provide great feedback. Okay, I'm nearing the end of my time here. Whenever I give this talk, I always get a question about the ethical trade-offs of AI, and there are some, and I want to acknowledge them. There are huge rooms of underpaid people that are reviewing massive amounts of content in dark rooms for long hours to feed these AI models to help train them. And that's a huge expense, and there's some human exploitation that is involved in creating these LLMs. Data centers that run the AI use water. They use energy that contributes to global warming. And there's always this fear that we're training the AI overlord that's going to replace us at some point, right? But the thing, how I sleep at night using AI on almost every day on lots of things. I know that I don't read the sensationalized stuff. I know the actual evidence that every time I use a single prompt, it's about equivalent to me watching 9 seconds of television, or using 5 drops of water, or driving my car 4 inches. Now, if you're using thousands of prompts every single day, yeah, all that does add up. But one of the main things to think about is that when you train an AI model, the training is actually what takes a ton of energy. The individual prompts don't take that much. So training ChatGPT-4, for example, it spent enough energy to power almost 5,000 homes for a whole year, and a lot of human energy to make it work. And a lot of those humans were in the exploitive roles. But that's a sunk cost. I guess if a forest was burned in order for me to use a model, I might as well honor those trees and use the model, right? Like the environmental impact is already past. So I think that there's also arguments to be made that these AI tools are becoming more energy efficient, and they're unlocking a lot of amazing areas of potential. So if you're able to help more people and teach more people and be more successful in academics because you use these tools, is it worth it? I think so, personally. So what's the future look like? Really soon. I think within a year, honestly. People shake their head at me when I say that, but I think within a year, any clinical question, most questions are going to be able to be highly reliably answered by a chatbot. We are approaching artificial general intelligence. We're in the foothills of it, and artificial superintelligence. So what the American Association of Family Physicians, the residency program solutions, kind of in their criteria for excellence, they came up with these things. I think it's really reasonable. What we need to train doctors to do now is ensure that graduates master skills that AI cannot replace. AI is not going to empathetically communicate with a patient. AI, at least for a fairly long period of time, will not be doing procedures in an office, won't be doing people's PAPs, won't be doing abscess INDs. AI is really good at straightforward answers, but it really does struggle at the complex, really truly complex integrative care and problem solving and in goal setting and taking multiple issues and kind of prioritizing. It doesn't do a great job of that. It's not going to be out there in the community coaching people or improving the health outcomes of a community. And we need to train docs to be able to implement these things. Implementation science is more important than ever because what I think the job of a physician is becoming is now figuring out how to implement these new tools effectively, and analyze whether they're working correctly. So next steps. I think this is my last slide. So how do I learn more? Well, the Society of Teachers of Family Medicine does have an artificial intelligence and machine learning curriculum, which is pretty cool. It's they're working on updating it right now. They're going to update it every season, but kind of it's a really good base curriculum to kind of teach you how to use these AI tools better. I'm a member of the Artificial Intelligence and Medical Education Initiative, so we're doing things like this presentation to really help people do a better job using these tools. And there's a lot of really great books. I love the AI 2041 book. Co-intelligence is all about prompting. Deep medicine talks a lot about like what AI is going to be able to do. And then one of my good friends, Kareem Hanna, has like a great Substack where they talk about AI in medical education. So that's a really cool thing to follow for the latest information. So that's kind of all I have to share for now. I would love to answer questions or have a discussion about any of the things I just said. Do you guys have any thoughts or questions or stuff you'd like to kind of go back towards?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so you did talk about the ethical, like reimbursement of using AI. Do you ever think that there will be like a way to use AI, but then also not hurt the environment, or like?
No. I think life is trade-offs. Um, you know, I writing things on paper hurts the environment because there were trees that had to die in order to make my paper. Driving to clinic hurts the environment. In the future, material science is getting better. We're going to have data centers in space. We're coming up with more energy efficient ways to do this. Right now, it does take a lot of energy, but I think that for me, I just acknowledge that there is an ethical trade-off to this work, but that I think is life. I'm not going to start riding my bike 30 miles to work. I just can't do it. I don't know if that's if you like that answer or not. That's I think that's my honest answer.
No, it's understandable. Thank you for answering my question.
Hmm. I don't think it's a reason not to use it, right? It's just it's trade-offs.
Okay, we don't have any more questions. We want to thank you, Dr. Hayes, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.